Hey, horror fans, welcome back to Terror Talk, where I discuss creepy clips online. All the horror music you hear is composed by me. If you want my top 5 horror movie recommendations and exclusive reviews, check the pinned comment after watching. Plus, I've got a free gift to inspire your creepy imagination. Now, let's have some fun.
I'm from Denver. This happened a few years ago. My friend Mike and I were heading to a dinner party one snowy Saturday evening. We decided to stop at a liquor store before heading to the party. It was honestly a pretty annoying detour with the snow coming down, but we didn't want to show up completely empty-handed. We picked out some local craft beers and a bottle of whiskey and made our way back to the car. I remember the snow started to pick up around then, but it was nothing we weren't used to. He ran back into the liquor store to grab a pack of Zins, his latest nicotine fixation. I remember being annoyed about that because I was the one driving and didn't have the best car for the snow at the time. After a few minutes, he emerged from the liquor store and hopped in the car. I immediately pulled out of the parking lot and we were back on our way. The snow was falling even heavier now, covering the roads in a thick blanket of white.
Have you ever driven through a bad snowstorm? Luckily for me, I haven't, and I think that would actually be pretty scary. But yeah, let me know if you ever have or if anything creepy happened in that time where you drove through a snowstorm, or maybe it was a rainstorm or anything like that. Let me know in the comments if anything creepy happened.
The drive to the party was supposed to be straightforward, about 20 to 30 minutes through familiar suburban neighborhoods. Things in my life are never as easy as they seem, though. The snowstorm had other plans, turning what was supposed to be a relaxing route into a treacherous journey. Let me just say, I'm not a great driver as is. The car slipping every 10 seconds didn't help matters. After a tense few minutes driving uphill, I turned a corner and was met with a sight no one ever wants to see. In the middle of the street was a stopped car. Its hazards were flashing ominously, cutting through the falling snow like distress signals. Both the driver's and passenger side doors were open. I was tempted to just drive around it and continue on my merry way, but Mike instructed me to stop.
What would you do in this situation? Would you stop or would you go around and keep driving? For me, I think I would definitely go around and keep driving because most of the time nothing ever good comes from stopping like this in the middle of nowhere trying to help someone. And, I'm all for being a good Samaritan in the right circumstances, but when it comes to stuff like this, I'll definitely give a hard pass.
Judge me if you want, but I'm not your typical good Samaritan. I've been through way too much BS in my life that has ultimately resulted in a distrust in strangers I typically default to. I told him we were late, but he urged me to stop with a concerned voice. Mike had gotten me into trouble before with his childlike curiosity, but this was different. Someone could be in trouble. Reluctantly, I stopped the car, and the two of us sat in emotionless silence for a few seconds. Mike asked if we should check it out, which I told him was what we were doing. He rolled his eyes and told me watching the car from through the windshield wasn't going to accomplish anything. He was kind of right. I really didn't want to get out of the car, though. Nervous about the situation, I asked him if he'd just wait a few more minutes, which he reluctantly agreed to. We sat there watching the eerie blinking of the hazards against what was otherwise a beautiful snowy backdrop. Nothing happened, which I was kind of surprised by. Eventually, Mike said he had had enough and was going to investigate. Before I could stop him, he stepped out of the car. I watched with a rising sense of apprehension as he approached the vehicle. As he was doing so, I could have sworn I saw something dark move out of the corner of my eye. It might have been my worried mind playing tricks on me, but this situation was seeming worse and worse to me every second that passed. Not even 10 seconds later, I thought I saw the car jolt a little, like something had moved in the trunk or back seat. Again, maybe my mind was playing tricks on me, but I didn't care. I made a quick time decision and slammed on the horn, startling Mike, who had been inspecting the inside of the vehicle. He understood what I was communicating and sprinted back to the car.
Yeah, if you see a dark figure and the car jerk like that, I don't think that's in your imagination. And like I said, it would have just been better to get the hell out of there in the first place. But Mike is pretty stupid, I don't know. To have that sense of curiosity where you almost put yourself in danger is not a good thing.
I drove off immediately, told him my suspicion that the whole thing was a trap. He was pretty annoyed when I told him I didn't have any actual proof, but I responded in a firm voice that I wasn't going to risk my life for someone who could easily call for help. The rest of the drive was pretty tense, to be completely honest. He was the type of guy to hold a grudge longer than most. We arrived at the dinner party, and things were finally normal again. We were there for
Honestly, who cares about the grudge? Like, screw that guy. Like, seriously, this is sort of making me angry, I'm not gonna lie.
several hours, and Mike and I had all but forgotten what happened earlier. After a nice dinner and an enjoyable time catching up with old friends, our host turned on the TV to give some departing guests an update on the snowstorm. He flicked over to the local news, and what I saw was actually horrifying. The police were issuing reports of a stolen vehicle that had been jacked not even 2 hours earlier. They were circulating a spoken account from the victim, which went something like this. A woman was driving her teenage son home from a friend's house when she noticed a car in the middle of the road, hazards on and doors open. The two approached the car to see if someone was in distress, and as they did, two men sprung out from behind a snowbank and another emerged from the trunk of the vehicle. They held the woman at gunpoint and forced her to turn over her keys. They promptly sped off with the stolen car, along with the one that had been used in the trap. I stared at Mike with a look of pure fear. That could have been us. The two of us told the rest of the party what happened earlier. That quickly put a damper on the general atmosphere, but people were eating the story up. The worst thing about this experience is that I'm even more distrusting of strangers than I previously was. I often think about how many people I would have otherwise helped out in a time of need had I not experienced such a meticulous trap.
Yeah, and that just proves my point that you really do need to be cautious of strangers and things like that in those types of situations because you just never know. And I think a good rule of thumb is that when you're out and you're traveling, just always stick to yourself. Like, if you think something is up, just keep going on your way and call the police and report it. If you can't call the police, well then, so be it. But your life is more important than helping someone who you don't even know. Because more often than not, it's probably a trap. And that's just my opinion. But I think that it's important to live by that rule. And for me, I know that I always will. Like, I never really travel on my own anyways. But if I were to travel on my own, I would definitely stick to that story because, yeah, I'm definitely not going to put my life at risk for someone I don't even know. But those are just my thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed the commentary and the music. And be sure to grab my top 5 horror movie recommendations in the pinned comment below, and I will see you in the next video.